And welcome to This Week in Cadillac. Hi, this is Bill Barnett on another Friday morning. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning on Rush Radio 1240 WATT for our weekly program, This Week in Cadillac. And we're here again with an important guest. She's coming in to talk about something that's very important to her, and it couldn't mean more to her, which is about her son. And it's Michelle Strobel, who's in the building this morning and on our mics. And I want to say good morning to you, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good, Bill. Thank you.
And glad to have you on the show this morning. And let me ask you, if you could, to introduce yourself a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, and let us know a little bit about your background.
My name is Michelle Strobel. I moved up here basically from the Grand Rapids area in 1992. I wanted to bring my kids to a smaller community and raise them so they could plant themselves and have roots. I never had that as a child growing up. We moved around a lot. I never got to establish myself, and I wanted to provide that for my kids. And this is where we've remained.
Okay. All right. So do you work in the Cadillac area? You live here and live with your family, or what's your current status?
I do work here in the area for a family business, and I still have children living at home. I've been in the same home here I rent in our area for the past 13 years. Same place.
Okay, let's talk about your kids. You have kids, maybe a little bit about your family.
I have 4 kids, ages 16, 21, 26, and 30.
Okay, and let's get back to last summer, because I know some tragic events happened in your family, and this is difficult to talk about, but it's something you have come forward with and seeking the community's help to solve the disappearance and the issues surrounding the disappearance of your son, James Strobel. But why don't you go back to last summer and tell us what happened and how this started out.
My son, James, he's my 30-year-old, my only son, my oldest child. Had a drug addiction, and that he has been dealing with for, I should say, all of us have been dealing with for the past 10, 11 years. Last year, he got introduced to a new drug in our community known as bath salts. On the streets, they're calling it PVP or synthetic speed is what he kept calling it. I'm not really sure if he was even aware that it was actually bath salts. I think he was just thinking it was another form of methamphetamine or speed. My son wasn't typically a amphetamine user. He was more or less of an opiate. He would be like morphine, which is a total opposite of the two. Once he got into this, it was unstoppable. He, to my knowledge, returned to the Cadillac area approximately on May 28th of 2013, and it was shortly thereafter that it was obvious that he was into something different. He was doing, the amphetamine type drug. And within a month's time, it became apparent that there was a lot going on with Jimmy. Not just him, but the whole group of people that he was hanging around with. There's many of them that were using this drug, and you could tell just by walking down the street, you knew who was doing it.
Where do you get bath salts? Where was he at that point? Is he getting that in the black market from drug dealers or from stores? I mean, it was
His dealer was giving it to him for free. The friends that he was hanging out with, he was hanging out with dealers, and they were providing it to him for some reason for free. I'm not clear on why, but they were giving it to him for free. And
okay. So you recognized your son had a drug problem. He's maybe battled with that for a number of years. Here's a new development, maybe a worse drug, worse observations from you. Your response to what you observed.
It causes great anxiety, paranoia. That's what our most observed, effect. It was a lot of paranoia. It became to the point where he felt that somebody was actually following him, stalking him, and that's what brought us to July 4th, where I had went to our local city police station and asked them. I didn't just ask, I begged for them to help me take my son off the streets. I went in there with my daughter, my 26-year-old daughter, and we begged the city police to help me get my son off the streets and take him to the hospital so I could commit him, so he could get off the bath salts. It was just days prior to that my son had came to me and told me he was unable to do this himself. He wanted me to commit him. He wanted me to put him in a hospital so he could get clean and do whatever it is that,
Okay, so he was reaching out for some help.
He did reach out verbally.
And what happened as a result of that?
Because of the drugs, it's a highly addictive, very powerful. It's stronger, if you've never done them, which I haven't. I just observe, and I've dealt with it for years, But I have to say that it is much more powerful than meth, and it's more addicting, and the outcomes are horrible. I mean, it's a very bad thing, and it's being shipped through the mail. It's imported. You can buy it off the internet. They are shipping it from China or some other country. It's imported, and then they have it sent to various houses around our community under different names, and they just go and collect it, and possibly they're bringing it back to the meth labs and mixing it in with the meth, because meth is becoming harder to make. It's more risky. So therefore, they're going to make a profit because they can make a bigger batch or whatever, or it keeps their customers coming back because it's such a good high and it's more addicting. I don't know. But sometimes the user isn't aware that they're using a different drug.
Okay, so July 4th of last year, he reached out. What was the result that you had with seeking help from the authorities?
Initially, they told me because he's a 30-year-old male, adult male, they just can't walk up to him for no reason and approach him and just take him off the street. And I begged him. I said, find a reason. He sees you coming, he's going to resist. There's your excuse. Take him to emergency, and I will take over. I can't take my son, who's 6'2", an adult male, by the hand and tell him we're going to the hospital. I'm going to have your help to do this. I begged him to do this. They told me there was nothing that they could do. We bumped heads, so to speak, towards the end. My daughter was very upset at some of the remarks that were made, and it was, in our opinion, it was very unprofessional, and some of the things that they had said to us, it was unacceptable. When we left the station, for some reason, they immediately put out, I guess, an alert, a lookout for my son, and they had the biker police, the
Bike patrol?
bike patrol
Okay.
out looking for my son. They were stopping everybody on the streets. Patrols were stopping people on the streets asking if they've seen my son, and they're like, why, what did he do? And everybody's like worried about what he's doing, and that word got to him quick, I'm sure. And everybody's thinking, oh, what'd Strobel do, or does he have a warrant? And it was relayed to them that he did not have a warrant. He did not have any wants. He had no reason to be running. So it kind of it was the way they went about it. My son's not hard to find if he's not hiding. But so go out and just tell everybody in Cadillac that the cops are looking for him again when he's in a paranoid state of mind as it is.
Was he in trouble in his life before that, other criminal offenses, and is that part of the
Yes.
of the story here?
He does have, like I said, he's had a drug problem for the past 11 years, and he's been to prison. He's done his time. He's had his issues with the police. He wasn't their favorite, I'm sure. But that's between the police and him, not necessarily the community.
Okay, was he missing on July 4th, or is that...
He was not.
Okay, you just had come to a point where you were...
We were wanting to get him off the street. I felt that something bad was going to happen, either himself or to others. I expressed this to the police. I said, I need him off the streets. Something's going to happen. I said, something's going to happen. He's either going to do it to himself or he's going to do it to somebody else or both. I don't know. I just need to get him off the streets and get him off these bath salts. And my son actually was home that night. He came home and he was worried. I can't say that he was in an excited, paranoid state. He was telling me that somebody was after him. But then people can twist that around and say that's the bath salts. So what do you trust? Can you just blame it on the bath salts and say it's not true? Or can you say that there was actually somebody after him and he knew what he was talking about? He said it on numerous occasions. There are witnesses to say that he was being stalked by a certain person. And, it's just when you're caught up in the moment, you just don't know what to think at the time. It's like you have to be there to experience that, I suppose. I asked him again. I said, please, let me help you, Jimmy. He knew what I was talking about. He looked at me and he was like, he pondered that. Like, he almost took my hand and let's just go. But then for some reason he said no. And I can't force him to, do that. What was I going to do? And so he ended up leaving and he went to his sister's, and that was the last time that I had seen him for that night. The next day, he was around, out and about, as usual. Again, not hiding from the police. Even though it was all over town that they were looking for him, he was still bouncing in between his sister's house, my house, whatever, He ended up going out to my mom's house, which is Pheasant Ridge. Approximately, I would say about 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm thinking. And he was there to see his grandma, and his grandma wasn't home, so he had to leave. And so he hopped the fence, which is the field right behind Pheasant Ridge, which butts up against McGuire's Resort golf course, and ran off into the direction of either Cadillac Shores Apartments or I would have to say North Meadows. And that was our family's last eyewitness account of him.
Was your mother his grandmother at Pheasant Ridge, or?
She wasn't home at the time, but her roommate was.
Okay.
And he saw him.
And what date was that? Was that on the 5th?
That was on July 5th at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. If you just joined us on our program this morning, we have Michelle Strobel, and we're getting some background here and some updates on what's happening with the recently reopened investigation on the passing of Jimmy, her son. Okay, so this went on for quite a while, but what's the next thing that happened in July? And why don't you just keep telling your story?
July 6th, this was the 4th of July weekend, and on July 6th, it was just the normal day, you know, everybody's getting ready to go see the fireworks down at the lake. It's a Saturday. And I had joined my family, took my grandkids. We all went down to the lake and watched the fireworks. And they got over with, and I ended up walking down to the gas station, Speedway, and it was quite crowded. And
okay, what happened at Speedway?
The only reason I bring that up is because we were trying to gather a timeline for the last eyewitness account of where my son was. It didn't cross my mind that I walked right past my son on that night at Speedway parking lot. I was hoping that they had their cameras, but I guess they don't. But there was another person in Speedway who knows my son that had brought it up after that that I reported him missing. She says he was at Speedway that night. He was standing outside. Apparently, we don't want to throw assumptions in there, but generally when he's standing in the parking lot around Speedway, they're waiting for somebody.
Okay, that was on July 6th, right after the fireworks?
Approximately between 11 and 11:30 at night.
Okay, so what happened next, Michelle?
It became clear around the 7th and 8th because it's unusual for Jimmy not to be popping his head in. You know, he would be at his sister's house. It sparked my... I knew I was asking if he was around. You know, I hadn't seen him. I was getting concerned. So I started asking people if they've seen Jimmy. His sisters didn't see him. Nobody's seen him after the 6th. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I went back to the police and made them aware that, you know, I'm looking for Jimmy, and I can't say that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I was in contact with them. I couldn't report my son missing for 72 hours from the last time that could say that we seen him. So from the 5th is when we actually last seen him. So you have to wait 72 hours. So the 8th comes around. We still have not heard from Jimmy. I looked everywhere I could. I went to the bus stations because I was told that my son had gotten on a bus and left state with 2 other people and went to Ohio, and he doesn't want me to look for him. And I found that very odd. That's not happening.
Okay, so after that, July 8th, I guess, is where we are at this point, allegation or information that he might have been on a bus. What happened after that?
I went in and I officially reported Jimmy missing with the Cadillac City Police because he's missing from our city. And that was on July 8th. And I even backed it up with the mental health supplemental order So if they were to run into him, they had the legal right to just take him into custody. It was a pickup order from mental health that signed by a judge, so they could take him right to the hospital, and then I could overrule him and commit him into a hospital so he could detox off of these drugs. With that, he was able to be entered into the LEAN database, which is for missing and endangered people, which that's what Jimmy was classified under, and that puts him into a national database for where across our United States, including Canada. So if he was to ever come into police contact, he would pop up in the system as missing and endangered, and we would know where he was at. That's what I needed the supplemental order for. And that all took place on the dates of 8th and 9th of July. Right after that became public by me that he was officially missing, because I use Facebook to do a lot of communications, which I find to be, it works pretty well. Everybody was telling me that he got on a bus and that he went to Ohio and he was with 2 other people. And I was telling police, I said, I don't think so, that Jimmy wouldn't do this. This is not him. He's not running, and it was like very frustrating because, I know a lot of mothers like to say they know their kids, but there was something wrong. We knew this. Our family knew this. Jimmy didn't have to, he would have took something with him. He would have told us. He would have called us if he left for 2 days and, oh, I'm in Ohio, Ma, These people continued to tell me that Jimmy is in Ohio, that they've been talking to him on the phone. And now we're fast forwarded into like 11 days missing at this point. 2 days after, I have to back up.
Okay, go ahead.
Within the same time, I'm getting rumors that he is not in Ohio, that from a different group of people, just various people saying they're like anonymous. They're just coming out of strangers just telling me, you need to look in the woods behind the apartments. And McGuire's area is what they kept telling me. They never would tell me. I could never get a location. I didn't know where to look. I just knew it was a wooded area behind some apartments. Police were not listening to me. They were believing the people that were saying that they talked to him on the phone, that he's in Ohio. They believed that he was running and he was just high and, all this. I disagreed. We butted heads a lot through the search for my son. On 11 days missing, I believe was July 19th, I went in to the city police station as I always, every day. I was there every day. I was very upset, very frustrated because there was no progress. Nobody's looking, nobody's searching, and I'm being told repeatedly that my son is dead in the woods behind some apartments. And so the poor receptionist at the police station had to listen to me vent, and I am a sailor's ex-wife, and I swear like one. And I did, cut loose and have a meltdown and whatnot, and she finally said that she would send an officer out to talk to me because I was demanding a search be done for my son. She sent an officer out, and we butted heads for a minute, and we finally calmed down, and we sat down, and we came to an agreement that they would do a search.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, Michelle. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll pick up right there, and you'll be in the second portion of our show as well. This is Bill Barnett. We have Michelle Strobel on our program this morning, mother of the late Jimmy Strobel. We'll be right back. You're listening to This Week in Cadillac on 1240 WATT. And welcome back to This Week in Cadillac. Michelle Strobel on our program this morning. with an incredible story about her son, and she's about halfway through, so she's going to be here for this morning's program. And I appreciate that very much. We were in the city police department last, I think we were talking, and it looked like you were making some headway with getting a search going. So why don't you take it from there, Michelle, and continue to share your story with our listeners this morning.
We did come to an agreement to where we would do a search between some apartments, the wooded areas between some apartments, but not actually knowing where a direct location would be. We just took a guess, and they started searching behind Cadillac Shores and North Meadows and the wooded areas by McGuire's, down Mack Trail, in that area.
Okay, but why out of the whole area, let's just say Wexford, why are we in that area of all places? What led them to that area? Similar to...
Because he was running in that direction, I suppose, and it is a frequented area for, it's a popular area. Everybody pretty much goes to the shores. There's a lot of activity there. There's a lot of activity in all the apartments. But those were just the most logical ones, I suppose, and the closest ones to McGuire's area.
Okay, where they were going on tips that they've received then?
Yes, we were receiving tips that my son was last seen running into the woods behind some apartments, and that a group of people had followed him into these woods, and they came out, and he never did. It was said that my son was at a party, and something happened. He freaked out. I don't know. But they're saying that he jumped the fence and ran into the woods, and a group of people followed him into the woods, and like I said, they came out, and he never did. So for the rest of the search, I was consistently being told that my son was in the woods behind some apartments, which on day 11, I went to the police station. I demanded that they do a search because they were convinced that he was in Ohio, due to the fact that there was other people saying that they were talking to him on the phone and telling them that me, mainly, and the police, when they were questioned, that he was okay. He just didn't want to be found, and he was in Ohio, and everything's fine. But we couldn't never confirm that. We never got voice confirmation. We never heard from Jimmy ever again. So they conducted the search. The search came up negative. But for some reason, the town of Cadillac went nuts, and I was getting phone calls for the rest of the weekend. They conducted the search on Friday, is when they started it, and I believe they ended it on Saturday. And they never called me to tell me that it was a negative search. So I was listening to people call me at midnight, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, people screaming and saying that, oh my God, they found Jimmy with his neck slit behind the apartments in the woods. And it's like, I don't know where that came from. It's like everybody just kept saying, they found his body, his neck's been slit, and now he's in the woods. I would get up and drive to these places, and I don't see any action going on. I was like, where's the cops? So I didn't know what was going on. And it was like, okay, did somebody put his body out there after they know that the cops had searched? Okay, this area's been searched. So now is it safe to move my son's body, is what I was thinking. Still, this is in July, it's like anything, I don't know. I'm trying to hold a hope out that my son is still alive, but in my heart and my gut, I already knew that he wasn't. And so we continued on with trying to track these people that were in Ohio, and we did. We knew that they were in Ohio at some point, and we were trying to confirm through photos and whatnot, or waiting for phone contact to verify that my son was alive, and that never happened. The following month, we went through all of August, pretty much the same rumors. You know, he's in Ohio, and one group of people are saying, yeah, I took him to the bus, and I seen him get on the bus, and he called, and whatever they wanted to say. And then there's the other people saying, I was getting phone calls, I was getting messages from random people that I didn't even know, and they were like, I overheard this conversation in Walmart, 3 guys talking about your son, I think, and they're saying he's out in the woods. There's another person saying that my son ripped off the wrong person and he got his neck slit, and that's one body that'll never be found. There's another same person is actually saying that, well, Jimmy didn't expect that many of us to be there. There's just so many, you know, you can chalk them up to rumors, and this is what the police kept saying is, that's just rumor, Michelle, that's just rumor, you know how it is, you know. And living in a small town, yeah, we know how that is. But the fact of the matter is my son was found on September 2nd in a wooded area behind some apartments a mile up the road from where they searched.
Well, and that's also where the tip was coming from to a degree, was it not?
It is.
So how would a tip be going around, or rumors, and it turns out to be true unless someone obviously had some knowledge in some fashion, some way?
Absolutely correct.
And that's one reason Michelle's here, if not the only reason, is to tell her story, but also ask the public to help out, if at all possible, if anyone knows anything about the disappearance or the death of James Strobel and what happened to him. We would, as community members, greatly appreciate you calling the city police. Is that what you'd recommend right now? Is that who's doing the case at this point?
That is who is handling the case at this point. I don't really have a choice in the matter. That's who's handling our case right now.
Do you have, are you accepting calls too if someone didn't want to call the police, or is there another way to get information to you?
Yes, you can send me a message. I am on Facebook. I will accept messages, and then we'll go from there. I'll talk with you privately, and we'll see what, you have.
Okay, so all the way through August of last year, were there any developments? Probably not. And then nothing was known until he was found on September 2nd.
Correct.
Okay, so tell us what you want to about that, and where it's gone from there, if you could.
On September 2nd, approximately around 5 o'clock, a civilian had found my son's body in the woods, basically in their backyard, I would have to say. Police had just done a search, I was told, that same very week, and with cadaver dogs. And according to the papers, they say that he was only located, 300 to 500 yards off, a few hundred yards off the White Pine Trail. I don't understand why my son's body wasn't found sooner. The search should have been done in July, but it wasn't. It was delayed because people were purposely delaying our search by telling us and making us believe that he was in another state when he wasn't. And I'm not a joy to work with when I'm frustrated. So I did bump heads with the cops, or Cadillac City Police me. And but I don't know who wouldn't in this situation. It's very frustrating when you know something and nobody's listening to you. I guess my point is now there is information that has been brought forward. This information was brought forward 5 days after I had a memorial. I didn't have a burial. I had a memorial for my son on September 21st. I believe it was September 26th that somebody contacted me anonymously and told me that My son did not kill himself, and this is the people that are responsible, that they had been confided in and that they know. I immediately took that information to detectives the following Monday. I believe it was, I could have the dates off, but it was September 30th that I went back into the station and presented them with this information, and they absolutely didn't want to hear a bit of it because of the person that had told it to me. Now, my son was, like I said, he was involved with drugs. He had a drug problem. He's had that drug problem for 11 years. Most of everybody that he was hanging out with at the time is also drug users. And most drug users, because of the drug use, do have a history of, criminal history, whatever, They're going to do whatever they can to get out of whatever it is. So do police find them reliable? Probably not. Not unless there's something that they can wheel and deal with. So we sit here now with the very same people that were saying that my son was in Ohio and he was fine and he wanted me to stop searching for him. Now they're being implicated in his death. And these people are saying now, oh, we did nothing to Jimmy. We have nothing to do that. I don't know what you're talking about. So they believed them over me in July, and my son was not in Ohio. And now they're believing them today.
Okay, well, let's go back to the investigation that occurred after his body was found, and it was my understanding that they ruled or deemed it to be a suicide.
Yes. Because my son's body was out in the woods for that period of time, he decomposed quite a bit. And so walking up on the scene, you would probably say it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, must be a duck. And I think that's pretty much what they thought it was. And with the drug history and the history just, throughout the years, it is very possible, it's easy to pin it as suicide. Very easy. If it wasn't for people coming forward, we'd probably be still sitting here. I wouldn't be this far. But this is people that have came forward and told me that my son is dead or was murdered. I'm sorry. And
okay. Michelle Strobel on our program this morning, and we're going through some difficult territory here about her son's death. And recently, I guess the news is that although it was initially deemed a suicide or a death caused by himself or brought upon by himself, there's been a new development. The coroner has weighed in on it and changed the cause of death, I understand. So maybe a little bit about that and how that process has turned this around. Okay.
On September 30th, when I went into the police station to inform them that there's been new information that has come forward and whatnot, and he did not want to listen to any of this, I grew very frustrated. I gave up. I lost confidence. They're not going to listen to me. They told me that it was just rumor. Once again, it was just rumor, and that this is just a suicide, Michelle, and you're just going to, go away, basically. That was on September 30th. So October, November passes. I am finding out more information throughout these months. October, November, fast forward to December, I figured, okay, I'm going to take these facts to the coroner. I'm going to go get my son's records. I'm going to request FOIA, which is Freedom of Information, and I'm going to take all my son's investigative reports, including his death scene photos and his autopsy and his toxicology, and I'm going to remove them from the city's possession, and I'm going to take them to somebody who is actually going to look at it and listen to what I have to say and see if they can rule this out. The first place I went was the coroner. I presented him with some of the facts. I asked him if they were able to rule these out, and he said no. His death was not ruled a absolute suicide. It was ruled most likely cause is suicide by hanging, only because there's missing information. I mean, if there was other information, then maybe they wouldn't ruled it a suicide. Most likely cause kind of leaves an opening for questions. If any more new information is to come about on the possible death, then they can look into that and see if they could rule that out. It wasn't
clear either way.
It wasn't clear either way. It just, with everything that they had at the time, it appeared to be a suicide.
Okay, in your heart, your feeling, was this a suicide? Was it a, I mean, do you know? Do you have a feeling? And where are you with this versus, you mentioned the word murder, which is a serious allegation, and what about that?
Well, I do say murder because I've been told over and over during July, when I kept telling them that he was in the woods, that I'm being told he's in the woods, that there was a hit put on him, that because the cops were chasing after him, probably because I had a well check put on him and I was trying to put him in a hospital, and the cops were like after him constantly for, and he was on bond for that an assault that took place in May. I know we're kind of backtracking there, but the people he was dealing with, and again, they're all on bath salts, they're all getting paranoid, they thought he was a snitch, and they wanted him out of the picture. And it wasn't him. They got their information wrong. Their snitch went to prison. My son went to the grave. And they covered it up. They made it look like a suicide. And I can't even begin to tell you. I won't even try to tell you some of the details that I have heard. And people can say, oh, yeah, people are going to make up stories and this and that. But what has been told to me now absolutely does make sense. And there is statements and witnesses from over the past 8 months that have confirmed over the past 8 months that they have heard this person make statements that they were there. They were there when my son died. These people are still on drugs, and they get doped up and they forget and they start slipping, or they just have the need to talk about it because it's a horrible thing to hold on to. And people talk. They have to talk about it if they have a conscience and a heart. And they confide in people. And I seriously, in my heart, believe that my son was murdered.
Okay, Michelle Strobel on our program this morning with the terrible story that we appreciate you sharing. You would like people to come forward if there is any information out there. And we've got about 4 minutes here. I want to make sure you get out your message. You are available on Facebook if anyone wants to talk to you about this, and you have done quite a good job of at least getting this thing turned around and reopened. Any developments since it's been reopened, or any progress, hopeful signs, or anything that you can share with the public that might not compromise any investigation?
We do have a few more witnesses that have come forward. We haven't had a direct witness come forward yet, but there has been witnesses to the direct witnesses of stating, talking about it, overhearing stuff, and these people are willing to come forward. They'll take lie detector tests. They'll make a written statement. What I do suggest is no phone interviews. If you have information regarding my son, I think it is important that you go in directly into the Cadillac City Police and request to have an interview, make your statement with Detective Goltnick, or I guess it's Officer Collins that's in charge of my son's case. I'm not sure really who's in charge of my son's case, but make sure that you put this statement in writing and that you're putting your name on it. I don't feel that this type of investigation should be conducted over a phone call. I think it's a little bit more important than that. And I just feel that's inadequate investigating.
All right, Michelle, what would you like the community to do to help in the investigation, to move it forward and get to the bottom and find the truth and have justice served if that's in fact, what is needed here?
I guess I could help by actually putting everything in my head down onto paper, and that is my plan, and I know I need to do that. But they need to start listening to some of these names that we're giving them. They can't just go up to them and ask them, oh, well, this is what was said. Is that true? And they say no, and that's it. They walk away. Is there what? What? I know it's like what? You're investigating a possible homicide here. Don't you think these things are important? You're just going to let these people slide. They're active drug addicts. They are probably got a meth lab. I don't know. But, to let them walk the streets, my son doesn't get to walk the street no more. My son was no better, no worse than any of these people that did this. Some of them are sober, some of them aren't. My son doesn't have a chance to get sober now. It's not fair. If they took my son, they took his life from him. He didn't make the choice for himself to take his own life. They took his life from him. They need to be brought forward. They need to be exposed for what they've done. They need to face what they've done.
Okay, we've got 30 more seconds. I'm going to let you finish anything else you want to say. That's pretty powerful. And we would ask people to come forward and help get the authorities get to the bottom of this for Michelle and her family.
We do have people coming forward.
Okay, Michelle, I want to thank you so much for coming in. This has been a tough hour for us, and thanks for doing that and for what you've done. You went to the newspaper, you've been on TV. You're getting the message out there that this is not over yet. And good luck to you with everything.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's program, and that was Michelle Strobel. Give the city police a call if you know anything, folks. Thanks for listening this morning. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, on This Week in Cadillac, 9 o'clock next Friday. Have a great weekend, everyone.